Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Please follow me on Twitter at the link below. And the video today we need to be talking about, where are the boxer punchers? But before we dive into that conversation, which started up a pretty good dialogue on the live I did earlier today, here's an update on upcoming fights for those of you who weren't aware. On 10 July, you got Goodman against Wayne Fawn. And I'll just scroll down so you can see what else you got going on. Looks like Chocolito is back, fighting Barrera on 12 July. And then you have, Batergasiev against Carroll, 13 July. Ennis against Evanescence this coming weekend. That's the fight that everybody's excited about, to see just how Jerron Ennis is going to look. This is the undercard information. I'll let you guys just skim over that as I just come on down. Adam Canuli is also fighting on the same day. Adam Canuli is a guy, it seems like nobody wants to fight Adam Canuli, man. I'm glad to see Muratai is fighting. He's actually fighting Farmer. I tell you what, if Tevin Farmer can get past Muratai, Tevin Farmer is back in the mix. But I'm not sure he can get the job done. Monday, 15 July, Yelik Jati against Conway. And again, I'll just scroll through here because I don't know who the hell those dudes are. 19 July. Damn, Roach is back in the mix. Okay, they got Roach back in the mix. 20 July, Jake Paul is scrapping. As his undercard information. Let y'all skim over that. Oh, Chavez Jr. is in the mix too. Okay. Then Nakatani's fighting on that same day. This is undercard information. Then he got these guys fighting out there in the UK. I don't even know who the hell they are. Hooney is fighting on 25 July against Pilcher. 26 July, you got Wall. Oh, Otto Wallen is back. Okay, I didn't even know Otto Wallen was back, but he's fighting against Ewarami. Okay, I didn't even know that. Got Evanescence against Hall Jr. on that same day. 27 July, Joe Joyce and Chisora. Damn, that's coming up. Okay. There's the undercard information. I have no idea who they are. Then Clarissa Shields on that same day is looking to make her heavyweight debut. I think she wins with no problem. It's going to be an interesting fight. Clarissa Shields is making noise. And you got Ergashev, who did very good against Suber Matias until he got touched up and, he got stopped. Michelle Rivera's back in the mix. And you got a couple other guys on there. 28 July, Pacquiao's fighting Suzuki, a 3-round catchweight, 158 pounds. And then you have Japanese and a Filipino fighter. Then the big fight is Terrence Crawford against Madrimov on 3 August. And we all know that undercard is crazy. Just in case you forgot, here's a reminder of who's fighting. All big names. Ruiz Jr. Miller, Cruz Valenzuela. That's a real tough fight right there. Morel, Kalajdzic, Cruz, Moran, Anderson, Bacoli. Very, very, very tough fight. And I'll stop there. Okay, back to business. Let me tell you something, man. When you start talking about boxing styles, the boxer puncher possesses a lot of the qualities that you see, like hand speed, the outstanding jab, combinations, being able to counterpunch, have great defense, accuracy, and has power, right? When I think about how a boxer puncher is defined, and you think about Shakir Stevenson, he's not that. Even though you see that he wants to be that. When you talk about Devin Haney, he's not that. You know what I'm saying? Hitchens is not that. Tank Davis is I would say he's a boxer puncher. Boots Ennis has proven that he's a boxer puncher. Crawford has proven he's a boxer puncher. But, my thing is when you have a boxer puncher, and this is why I say Tank, Boots, and Crawford qualify, but not most of these other fighters out here, irregardless of weight class. See, the boxer puncher, they have to be willing to get into an aggressive mash-up, crash-up style of fight. You know what I'm saying? Not just being on the outside and trying to stick the jab and, like I like to say, chicken peck their way to a victory. Now, if I say, hey, you got somebody who's just trying basically to get to the finish line and not lose a fight, I mean, there's a lot of fighters that come to mind. But in particular, since a couple just fought this past weekend, first name, two names that come to mind for me. It's three, but really, number one, Shakir Stevenson, Devin Haney, and I'd even say a guy named Hitchens, right? They almost remind me of a Paulo Malignaggi, kind of trying to box and move and jab, 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 jab. But you got to be aggressive. And when you think about some of the guys who are boxer punchers, right? All I'm going to say, when you think about Alexis Arguello, and you think about Shakir Stevenson and Devin Haney, there's no comparison, right? Even a guy like, I'll even say Joe Calzaghe. He was a guy, aggressive, high work rate, and he would try to get you out of there. And he had some power. Oscar De La Hoya, another good example of a power puncher. I remember the first fight I saw was Nonito Donaire when he fought Vic Darchinyan. Shit blew my mind. And other names that you guys should recognize, think about Thomas Hearns, Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones Jr. You know, those guys were serious boxing punchers. In heavyweights, you had Lennox Lewis, of course, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Felix Trinidad was another one. But when you think about these guys today, they just really don't have all of those qualities, and especially that aggression. I think Devin Haney really wants to knock people out. He just can't get the job done. But he can chicken peck his way to a victory. But really true Gervonta Davis, Terrence Crawford type of boxer punchers, the Roy Jones, again, like I was saying, the Mayweathers, those guys don't exist. And I really think, in my opinion, the most exciting style of fighter is the boxer puncher. Because they're dazzling the crowd. They can't be hit. They have the speed. They have the power. They possess some of the qualities that you find in other styles. Like a counterpuncher. The boxer puncher can do everything the counterpuncher can do, causing their opponents to make mistakes and making sure they take advantage of all the mistakes that are being made. You know what I'm saying? And then using the opponent's aggression and offense against them to make sure that they win rounds and start to break them down psychologically. And let me tell you something. When you start to break a fighter down psychologically, they start to get exhausted, and you just see it's like having a slow leak in a tire. Round after round, you can see that they just start to unravel. And the boxer puncher can do that. But the counter puncher can't do what a boxer puncher can do. Then you got like the boxer puncher who can crack and who can, become aggressive and get into a mash-up, crash-up if he has to. But he's making you miss and making you pay. And that's kind of like someone who will get in there and kind of slug with you and just chase you around the ring and try to kill you. You guys remember Ruslan Providnikov? He's the first name to come to mind, Ricardo Mayorga. There's got to be a certain amount of brutality, viciousness, trying to tranquilize you, being ruthless. But the slugger can't do what a boxing puncher can do. And when I think about all these guys we have out here right now, I struggle to find someone who can do what Nassim Hamed used to do. I just don't see it. And even though this guy, I gotta throw him in there. Guillermo Rigondeaux was another one. He was just a master boxer who could knock you out. You know what I'm saying? He was just outstanding boxer puncher. But I'm not really sure what can be done, because I think the mentality is really different with these fighters these days. I think a lot of them start to really look and rely so much on defense first, safety first, staying outside of the punching range, and not really being too concerned about engagements. You know what I'm saying? It's all about mitigating risk, reducing the responses, a whole lot of feints, a whole lot of footwork, and just a whole lot of not getting hit because they don't want to take unnecessary risk. But when you got guys like Sugar Ray Leonard, right? Those guys are boxer punchers, and they can sit there and they can make you miss, and they can use their footwork, their feints, and everything to get to a decision. But there's something in them where they're just not okay with that. When there's an opportunity and they get that sense like, okay, I got somebody in front of me who's not supposed to be here, they went after him hard. And they were even willing to take some shots in return to put that heat on their opponent. And we just today, you just don't really see that, man, outside of the couple names that I threw out there. And for me, it's frustrating. It really is. Even when I come and I start looking at what we have out here right now, right? And let's just talk about some of the really big names that we got in boxing. Because I think once we have that conversation, I think it gives us a better idea of maybe why we're not seeing it. And I'll just randomly pick a couple names. Now, when you think about the heavyweights of the past, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko, even Vitaly Klitschko, those guys were no kidding boxer punchers. Muhammad Ali. When you look at these guys today, who would you consider a real boxer puncher in the heavyweight division? Anthony Joshua? Yeah, I think so. Making you miss and making you pay. What about Usyk? Would you consider him a boxer puncher? But outside of those two, I mean, who's really out there slipping and catching, shooting, and doing all that fancy shit? I know these guys are big boys, but, I mean, none of these guys are moving like Mike Tyson. None of these guys are moving like Holyfield. I think Mike Tyson and Holyfield, if those guys were active and in their prime and fighting with these guys, I think Mike Tyson and Holyfield would have a field day with these guys today. It's just my opinion. You may disagree. When you come down and think about what they got going on at the cruiserweight division, I mean, Jaya Pattaya is pretty solid. But again, I gotta force myself to kind of find these guys who possess all those qualities that you find in a classic boxer puncher. Because you need someone who's vicious, just coming at you. Now, when you get down to 175 light heavyweight, you talk about Bivol. Bivol in his last fight, I think it's because of who he had in front of him. He chose to put his foot on the gas and try to get him out of there. Beterbiev, I don't know what I would call Beterbiev. It's kind of unfair to call him just like a slugger or a brawler because of his stellar amateur record and what he's done as a pro. But I think Beterbiev may be more of a brawler than a boxer puncher. But he is boxing. He's got a heavy punch. He breaks you down. But I would almost want to categorize him more as a brawler because he's not necessarily trying to move his head and get out of the way. He's just coming forward and trying to overwhelm you. Bivol is, again, he's not there in the pocket trying to slip shots and shit. Benavidez is up at 175. He's definitely not a boxer puncher. He's more of a brawler. But really, I don't know who I would say at 175 would be a boxer puncher that can do all those things. Now, when you get down to the super middleweight, talk about Canelo. Canelo is, I would say he's a boxer puncher because he's throwing combinations. He has head movement. He's using his defense. He's using his offense. He's using angles. He's using feints. Canelo puts everything together. And he can outbox you. He can brawl. He can do just about everything. And that's what makes him special. Now, when you talk about David Morrell, I think he fits the definition of a boxer puncher. Munguia, I think they're trying to get him there. But I still think he's kind of in between brawler and becoming a boxer puncher. but his nature is to brawl. Diego Pacheco, I don't really know where I would put him. Berlanga, I think Berlanga wants to be a boxer puncher, man, but he can see he's kind of getting away from being a slick boxer puncher and just, for the most part, trying to just, set you up for the right hand and just overpower you. But at super middleweight, Caleb Plant would be a good boxer puncher. That's a good one. I mean, outside of that, I really don't know who's at 168, who's really doing that. Now, when you get down here to 168, classic boxer puncher at 168 was Erislan de Lara. At 160 was Erislan de Lara. Classic boxer puncher. But Lara's legs have kind of shot and he's slowed down. Eubank Jr., another boxer puncher right now, Adam Cannulli. But Adam Cannulli can just tear through you. But Erislan de Lara, as far as the guys at 160, is a great boxer puncher. What's his name too? Demetrius Andrade. It looks like he's coming back down to 160, but he's another one who's a really good boxer puncher. And when you get down to 154, of course you got Crrawford. Jamel Charlo's a good boxer puncher. Really, ain't nobody else really a solid, slick boxer puncher, you know what I'm saying? Everyone else can fight, but nobody out here really doing the shit like Jamel and like Terrence Crawford. But they have really good fighters. But not for me to come out here and say they're slick boxer punchers. And again, I'm talking about like the guys of old, the Mayweathers, the Roy Jones, the Mike Tyson, the Holyfields. I'm just not seeing that outside of like a Jamel Charlo and a Terrence Crawford. And at 147, you got Boots, but again, we still think the verdict's still out on Boots. Norman Jr. looked pretty good, but again, I'm not so sure I want to say he's a top-notch boxer puncher. He can fight. But really, at 147, there's just one guy who really jumps out to me, and that's Boots Ennis. Everybody else is kind of, I don't know. I think the verdict's still out of them. Great fighters, but not, I wouldn't say they meet my definition of being true boxer punchers, man, that can make you miss, make you pay, set up traps, be aggressive, free swing with you, box on the outside, get on the inside. I don't think, when you talk about that definition and you look at them holistically, I just don't think that they check all the boxes. Now, at 140, Devin Haney's a boxer, tries to be a boxer puncher. He just don't have a pop, so it's not him. Teofimo Lopez, I would say he's a boxer puncher, but he seems to be falling off a little bit. Paro seems to be a pretty good boxer puncher, but again, I don't know if I would ready to say that when I think about a boxer puncher like a Sugar Ray Leonard, I want to talk about Paro. When I talk about a boxer puncher like Mayweather, Felix Trinidad, I want to talk about Paro. I want to talk about Teo, Haney, Puello. I mean, I just don't think any of these guys at 140 really fit that definition. But they are boxing, and they are, Teofimo's trying to get his big shots off, but he can't do it at 140. Puello's looking pretty interesting, but again, when I start talking about special fighters, like a Terrence Crawford, what we're seeing in Boots, right? I think those guys come to mind. These other guys, they just don't come to mind to me, man. And I could be biased because, I'm not really from this generation. So I still look at the shit that I watched the whole a complete career of Shane Mosley, a complete career of Mayweather, a complete career of De La Hoya. And we haven't really seen but maybe 20-30% of some of these guys, so we don't know what the future holds. And it looks promising, but I just think it's a bit premature to start putting them in the same category as a top-notch boxer puncher, like some of the greats from the past. Now, 135, no doubt, Gervonta Davis, boxer puncher. Lomachenko, at the lighter weights, boxer puncher. Still can box, has some pop, but he just can't really damage the guys at 135 because he's really a 126-pounder. Zepeda is definitely a mash-up, crash-up, brawler-type fighter. He's not a boxer puncher. Shaquille Stevenson is an outside boxing. I call him like an outer boxer. He ain't no boxer puncher at all. Frank Martin, I think Frank Martin is kind of meets the definition, but I can't put him in a category. I can't rank him as high as Gervonta, but I would say Frank Martin definitely tries to be a boxer puncher. Keyshawn Davis, he's a boxer puncher, but again, I can't, and I don't even think to put him in the conversation with those great names like I mentioned. And outside of that, I mean, that's really it. There's only one person at 135 who I think is heading that direction, and that's Andy Cruz. Edwin De Los Santos is another one. They look like they're going to earn their names to be held in those conversations with great fighters, man, because of the ability to box, be aggressive, make you miss, and make you pay. And once we get down to 130, O'Shaquie Foster is an outstanding fighter. Boxer puncher for sure, just needs to work on his output and not allow somebody to out-throw him, which the judges see as being outworked and outlanded, which isn't what happened when he faced Conceição. So it is what it is. But these other guys at 130, Hector Garcia, Cordina, Lamont Roach, Anthony Kakasi, I think O'Shaquie Foster is that guy. But still, I wouldn't. When he fought Ray Vargas, I was like, God damn, he's looking like Mayweather. You know, like, I mean, just an amazing talent. But I don't know if I want to put O'Shaquie there. But once you get down to 126, I mean, you got Ray Ford, you got Bruce Carrington. He's definitely looked like he's on his way to earning the right to have his name in the conversations with those special fighters as boxer punchers. Robeisy Ramirez, I think he's a really good boxer puncher. But we're going to see how his career finishes out. But then you got a guy like Naoya Inoue. He's definitely a boxer puncher. He will make you miss and make you pay, and he's aggressive. He's coming at you. And he's not just coming at you recklessly. There's a method behind the madness, and he's been highly effective since he's turned pro. So, again, Naoya Inoue is a great boxer puncher. Fulton, again, he's a great boxer. I put him in the same category with Haney and Hitchens and Shakir Stevenson. Outstanding boxer. He's no boxer puncher, in my opinion. So that being said, you know, where are the boxer punchers? Guys like Mayweather, guys like Sugar Ray, guys like Roy Jones, guys like Mike Tyson, guys like Trinidad, guys like Zab Judah, Shane Mosley. Maybe Crawford we can throw in that conversation. Tank for sure, but I mean, outside of that, there are a lot of guys we can mention about who are kind of boxers who can touch you and can hurt you, but nobody on the level of like those elite guys that I've mentioned in this video. Terrence Crawford and Tank, yeah, but I just wish there were more fighters who are okay with letting their hands go and going for the gusto. Especially if they're boxing and then boom, they land a big shot and they hurt their opponent, to really jump on them and try to finish them. And when the next round comes out, you know you ended the round when you hurt a guy, come out the next round and jump right back on him. All these fighters now seem to be so worried about their undefeated record, so worried about not getting touched or clipped or hurt. And sometimes, you know what, sometimes you gotta insult the crocodile and, while you're crossing the bridge. And before you cross the bridge, sometimes, you just can't get to the other side, didn't want to insult the crocodile. I mean, that's weak. That doesn't show you there's any bravery in you, no heart in you. And that's unfortunate what the boxer puncher has to be willing to do. Insult that crocodile before you cross the bridge. Now you got him pissed off. Now cross and see if you can get to the other side. And most of these fighters these days, they are not trying to insult a crocodile and cross that bridge. They're trying to play it safe. And I'm hoping we can get more of these fighters to develop that mentality, because it was nothing like watching Mayweather fight, nothing like watching De La Hoya fight, nothing like watching Miguel Cotto fight, nothing like watching Zab Judah, Shane Mosley fight, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Roy Jones. There's just nothing like it. But, hey, it's my opinion. May agree, may disagree. But that's my question. Where are the boxing punchers? Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.